Okay, so we talked about last week, I don't know, the bracha, right? We talked about the bracha on putting on tzitzis, and we noted in the Gemara you have a machloket of whether it's la'asot tzitzit or letatef b'tzitzit. Is it one or the other? The truth is the longer sugya, a much longer version is in the Yerushalmi, but I'm not gonna. I've mentioned it at several points, right? The Yerushalmi actually holds the halacha that you make a bracha in general on hechsherei mitzvah, right? On the procedures of the mitzvah, right? Of making a sukkah, right? The Bavli obviously doesn't hold this way, but the Yerushalmi does hold this way. But I did mention this in one of the sugyas, the sheet of the Netziv, right? That there's a middle category between mitzvah and hechsher mitzvah, which is hechsher mitzvah k'tuva b'Torah, right? Is a preparatory mitzvah that is written in the Torah, so therefore it might warrant a bracha because it's a quasi mitzvah. But we noted at the end of the sugya that lahalacha, which bracha do we make?
Mitzvah or litatef.
Right, litatef, and then if you're wearing a talit katan and not a talit gadol, so then we say al mitzvah tzitzit. Why we say al mitzvah tzitzit is an interesting question. Isn't it because you're not really yotzei with your talit katan, which again is not the majority position, but is a shita. If you remember that, it is a shita that is quoted lahalacha. But the main reason seems to be that. What did the Rishonim derive from the fact that we say litatef? So we saw machloket. Does that conclude that tzitzis is chovas gavra, chovas talis, and the like? But what I want to talk about is what is atifa, and depending on what does atifa mean. So what do you do when you put on the bracha? When you put on tzitzis, how do you actually have to wrap them? Because you've probably seen people. If you don't wear you wear talis. What do you do when you put on your talis?
Like the actual act of putting it on?
Yeah, what do you do?
Well, first over my head, tzitzit, then
Good, why do you do that?
lengthwise, overwise.
Good, why?
That way, you have your head, it's over your head, it's across your face and over your face. You have your face fully covered.
Good, why do you do that?
Why, those two motions?
Why that?
It's just our method of covering our face. I mean,
Why do you have to cover your head?
The tent is to be covered in it.
Oh, okay, because you have to do atifa. Thank you. That's what I was looking for. That's all. That's based on a particular understanding of atifa. Right? The reason that you see people doing different versions of what Yosef noted, of wrapping it around their head, either covering their face, not covering their face, right? Covering their eyes, not covering their eyes, whatever people do, inevitably slapping the person behind them with the tzitzit in the face, right? Which is not fun, right? That's always that you should. Right, exactly. You shouldn't do this, by the way. People don't like it. People don't like getting hit in the face. It's not a nice thing to do, but inevitable. And I'm sure it's happened to you all many times, especially like Shavuos, right? Everyone's like half asleep, and right? All the people who just wear tzitzis and want to go to either a Sephardi or a married person to be yotzei with their talis. So like you have a bunch of like teenagers crowded around every person who wears a talis, and then he just like swings it and hits 5 people. I've had this many times in my life. Okay, but why do we do it this way? I don't know what that is. Is it? Okay. Seems to be emanating from whatever. So ask me a kasha. Why do we do that? Right? Why shouldn't we do that? If I asked you, does that make any sense? Right? Give me a reason to say it makes no sense to wrap your talis that way.
Because your head is not necessarily part of atifa.
Good. Well, meaning
because when we wear a shirt, it's not covering our head, but it's still wrapping us.
Bidyuk. Right. As we went through the sugyas, when we did the sugya of atifa, when we did the bracha, when we did the sugya of size and quality. Correct, right? We talked about the fact that wearing means rosho v'rubo, avakaton, who's yotze. We've talked about what it means to be chayiv and tzitzis. And never did we talk about wrapping yourself. And again, why should I wrap myself only for the bracha? If the mitzvah of tzitzis is to wear tzitzis, so just put it on. How are we going to wear it? Why do I wear it differently for the bracha than I am for the rest of the day?
If it was like a thing to wear it on your head, you would think you'd like wear it like a turban or something.
Right, or whatever, right? Where does this come from? So why are we doing this? We've already talked about the fact that the mitzvah is to wear it, right? Everything, the shear, the size, We did that for a week, right? Of all the different quality of the beged, size of the beged, for a child, for an adult. No one thinks you have to walk around like that all day, right? Or maybe they do. Maybe they do.
Blanket. I asked my rabbi actually about the blanket.
And what did he say?
He said, we paskin like Shulchan Aruch, and to avoid Shittat Rambam, you cut one corner.
See, I told you. Baruch Hashem, I'm not crazy. I told you.
You're crazy.
No, you told me. I said it could go either way, but I knew that there were many Sephardi poskim that said you should cut the corner, round the corner, whatever.
Yeah, you keep one corner around.
And in this case, I was right. Baruch Hashem. I mean, not just right. Okay, I knew it was a machlokas, meaning that was the minhag of your...
Yeah,
okay, good.
My minhag in our community is to follow Shulchan Aruch.
But therefore to cut around the corner like the Magen Avraham.
People who don't want to have a problem of following like the Rambam, they're told to follow like the Rambam, they have their corners around.
Right, okay, good. That's what I said. I said some people say it's totally fine, which is one interpretation of Shulchan Aruch like the Mordechai, and some people round it to be machmir like the Rambam, like Magen Avraham, based on the Shita of Reb Eliyahu and Hagod Maimoni. Very good. See, that's what I said. Baruch Hashem, and you have both in your community, so I am vindicated. Good. So where does it come from? So it comes from the following. So the minhag comes from the following very little sugya. Okay, it's a one-liner. Last year the guys did Moed Katan. From Moed Katan. And it's the first source, okay? If you share, it's not complicated. El Anavelos and whatever, right? So Da'amar Shmuel, Kol Kara She'ena B'Shat Chimum Eino Kara, any rip, right? The Gemara. So the third parak in Moed Katan, thank you, lists all the halachot of Avelot and several other cases that are parallel to Avelot. What are they? Since you did it last year. See how well. Menuda and Mitzora, thank you. Yeah. Right, Avel, right, a mourner, a Menuda, someone who's excommunicated, and Mitzora, right, someone who has spiritual leprosy, or whatever we call it. Okay, Tzarad. Fine? So, the first halacha is, Kriya has to happen when? B'shat chimum. What's shat chimum?
On the right side.
Shat chimum, the moment of heat. What's heat?
When he finds out that they're...
Right, when
it first happens.
When it first happens, right? Meaning in the moment. The heat of the moment, right? That expression. In the heat of the moment, meaning when you... Not the other meaning that heat can have, yeah. Not, what? Oh, very good. See, I'm glad you asked that. Right, the answer is, so, Meikar Adin, it sounds like you should tear when you hear the person dies. The poskim suggest that maybe you can also be Yotzei at the funeral. I don't know what you find so funny, but... What? No. So some poskim say you could do it then. It's very strange that poskim defend that. There are reasons why they defend that and doing it particularly then. When I tore for Rav Lichtenstein, because it's also halacha-theory for Rabbi Muvak, I tore b'shas chimum. Right, the first interpretation. When I heard he passed away, I tore. Right, but there were a lot of people who tore at the funeral. Right, because. So now there's another halacha, which is atifa. You're supposed to wrap. And what is the wrap? So the Gemara has one line. V'chol atifa she'ena ka'atifat yishmaelim ein atifa. The wrapping you have to do with your turban is ka'atifat ha'yishmaelim. Right? Of the Arabs, Arab merchants, Arab something. Right? And then Mechaber Rav Nachman gove the dikna. And Rav Nachman actually showed them, right, until gove the dikna. What's dikna? Your beard, until his beard. Right? So like here, covering like the face.
So like when they do like across their face, like walking through the desert and stuff.
Right. That's what it is. Right? It's this wrap, it's around the head and around the face. Right?
Like a hijab, basically.
Atifat Yishmaelim. What do you think? This is not new. Right? It was the way you would travel. Exactly. In the desert, right? It covers your face. It gets sand out of whatever. But that's the way you wrap. And that's what you're supposed to do. It's a sign of mourning. Right? If you're walking around like that with most of your head covered. So, and the Gemara says that any wrapping that's not that doesn't count. So here's the fundamental question of the poskim. The poskim came and said, okay, by what?
Why should the wrapping from this be similar to that of the morning?
One second. So first let's talk about Avelos. In Avelos, the halacha is that since we don't normally wear clothes like that at all, we just don't do it at all, right? When you go into a Shiva house, you don't see someone wrapped like that because that's not how we wear things. Fine, good. Okay. But the fundamental question is exactly what Nachum asked, which is, We know in the context of Avelus, the Gemara says that when the halacha of Atifa requires this wrapping of the face. We know that the bracha of tzitzis is lihitatef. So the fundamental question the poskim dealt with, and this is the only question we have to deal with today, right? Like I said, it's not a very complicated sugya, is atif, when the Gemara says, ein kol atifa she'ena ka'atifat yishme'elim, it can mean one of two things. It can either mean, the word atifa by definition means atifat yishme'elim, and therefore, in every context in halacha, where you find the concept of atifa, it must be atifat hayishme'elim, or it's not atifa. That's possibility one. Possibility two is in the context of avelut, in order to fulfill the obligation of atifa, it needs to be a katifat hayishme'elim. But in other contexts, in other halachic cases, it might mean something totally different. So now, Nachum, what's the logic to distinguish between the two? Right, you said, why should we compare them? Good. So I'll just flip what you said the other way. Why should we compare them? Or in other words, what is the logic to distinguish? What's the logic to unite?
Why should one atifa be different from other atifa?
Good. Right, the logic to unite them is to say, the Gemara literally means, atifa is atifa is atifa, so it doesn't matter. Why would you distinguish? Or push it farther. It's not just one's a mitzvah, one's a expression of mourning. It's that.
Like they have two different functions.
Exactly. Right? Meaning the function of atifa by avelus is mourning. And the Gemara determines that the only type of wrapping that expresses mourning is one that wraps the face. Okay, fine.
Right.
But what's by tzitzis, that's not the function. The function of atifa is to wear it. You're supposed to wear tzitzis. Atifa is the expression of the psukim of beged, asher techase, covering, right? All those standards, you wrap, but it doesn't mean the same wrapping. It means wrap in the way that you wear things. In which case, by tzitzis, the standard should be how do you wear things, and by avelus, the standard should be what is an expression of mourning. These are not the same halacha. And this is the machloket haposkim. Right, this is the machlokas. So if you look here at number 2, you see that this phrase is not just in the bracha, but it's also, we talked about this a little bit, the age at which you wear tzitzis. Right? Kol chayaven b'tzitzit latuye mai. When the Gemara is commenting on the Mishnah that says everyone is chayav in tzitzis, so who is that? Latuye katan hayodeh litatef. This includes a child who knows how to wrap. Now again, how often do you see little kids who we start putting tzitzis on that we ask them to wrap? You don't, right? So now, look at Tosfos. Tosfos puts the question as follows. The Tosfos beginning of Erechim. Hayodeh litatef. Mishum da'amar b'moed katan kol atifa she'ena ka'atifat yishma'ilim eina atifa. The Gemara in Moed Katan says that any wrapping that is not like the Arab wrapping is not a wrapping. Shematvin talitam atzfamam. That they wrap their talit up to... Right? What's safam? Mustache. Right? Meaning right over the mouth. K'di'ita b'midrash umatzati b'tziluk echad asa harab Yosef. What's that? Tet ayim? Not that I actually expect you to know that. Tuv elem. I would not expect that. Rabbi Yosef tuv elem. Shenotein tzitzit echad milfanav echad milacharav miyamin v'chein l'smol. Right, he would put one in front, one behind, one on the right. Hayodeh litatef. So what? Now Tosfos seems to think that. Right, what does Tosfos seem to think? Right, he equates the two Gemaras. Right, he quotes the Gemara in Moed Katan in the context of tzitzit. So if you look at the Beit Yosef in number 4, he says, V'seider atifato, how do you wrap the tzitzit? Pershu geonim zal, katifat yishmaelim shiatifat murad. The Geonim said, when you put on tzitzit, you wrap it, ke atifat yishmaelim. And that's why you do that. Or you ever wonder why you do that? You put it on, then you wrap it across the mouth and over the shoulder, right? Because if you look at the Bedouins and look how they wrap when they go into the desert, right? This is not new, right? This is very, very old. And the Beit Yosef says, how did the Gaonim get this? Because the bracha is lehitatef. Alma ituf beinan, which tells you you need atifa. Uperak el megalchen. Amar Shmuel, kol atifa she'ena ka'atifa yishmeilim eina atifa. And we learn in the Gemara in Moed Katan that any wrapping that's not ka'atif yishmeilim doesn't count. So that's the shita of the Gaonim. Now, who takes, let's call it Nachum's position, right? That we distinguish. So the Bala Itur, right? The Bala Itur. So the Beit Yosef, the next line says, "Ubala Itur katav de lo bein kulay hai." What are you talking about? Ella kiderach shebnei adam mitkazin b'ktudan. What are you talking about? When it comes to tzitzit, you just need to put it on the way you normally wear clothing. Near Ed, the Beit Yosef says, why? Near Ed sheta'amomi devergam megalchen der apalagalei de Shmuel umash Yisrael et tivara rosh afal pishena kadesh atifat yushmim heve atifa. So his first explanation is maybe there's a machloket in the Gemara that Rav actually doesn't think you need atifat yishmeilim even in avelos. So maybe we pass him like Rav. Okay, that's possibility one. But then he quotes Rabbeinu Hagadol Mari Abu Avzal Katav Sheta'amo, and this is probably the more likely one is the Mari Abu Av Sheta'amod Lo Bein Atifat Yishmeim Gabe Avelut. The Gemara, when it said you need atifat yishmeilim, it meant you need atifa for avelut, because that's mourning. Aval gabe tzitzit. But by tzitzit shatorah chiva oto biksut shadam bitkaseh, the standard of tzitzit is what you wear, what covers you, as we saw with size and quality and all that stuff. Correct, but that's not how we wear it. No one says you have to wear it all day that way. Well, why not? Right? So he says, obviously the standard is. But they didn't. No, but the Gemara says that, remember, when we saw size, is that which a katan could wear, a 9-year-old could wear, an adult would go out once in a while. You're already chayav. That's not something that's enough for you to do atifat yishmeilim. The standard is just what you wear. He said sometimes the word atifa means wrap, and sometimes it means to cover, to wear. I mean, sometimes it means wrap, right? Around the head and whatever. Sometimes it just means wear. And the Beit Yosef says, I got my hands eventually on an actual itur. And this is what it said. The Gaonim said what Yosef does. And the itur says, no, I agree with the way Mari Buav understood it. That's a halacha by morning. Damar Shmuel called atifa sheina ka'atifa yishmeilim eina atifa. And Machave Rav Nachman Abuva the Diknei Perchach both piv, and they explain up to the mustache, meaning covering the mouth, etc. Aval kulayam lo machayv atifa arosh. And he says, and no one thinks you have to cover your head completely. Dimken yichas piv, right? No one's going to cover your mouth. He said, I'll prove it to you. You don't really believe that. Do you cover your mouth?
When I threw it, yeah.
Okay, but he said, is it possible that that's you wear tzitzit all day? It's one thing to say maybe you have to wear 4-corner garments around the whole body. Is it possible to say that you have to cover your mouth every time you wear tzitzit? No, might be dumb. Look at the sugyas. You think everybody... If people covered their mouth all the time, then why was that a sign of avelus? Right? It was a sign of avelus because you did it when you were mourning. But if you think that atifa is always equivalent to covering your mouth with your tzitzit...
This is for Gadol, right? Not the time.
But you have to do it all the time? People wore 4-corner garments constantly.
Right, but you have to do it all the time because you're supposed to do it that way.
No, it's only during avelos. It wouldn't be a sign of mourning if you did it ever at another time. Right, so it's clear. He says, "Ma pitom."
You have to wear this bag all day.
all day, every day.
This is what I tell us, guys.
No, that's exactly. These are people's clothing, right? So he says it can't be. You think every sugya every time, and therefore he says people wear it sometimes. They cover their heads, sometimes they don't cover their heads. So he said pamim begilui rosh, pamim shlo begilui rosh. He said people, if it's cold outside, so you put a scarf over your head, right? It's windy and sandy, so you put it over your mouth. It's not, you don't, right? That's how people wear things, right? People don't cover their mouth constantly, and therefore the Beit Yosef very nicely sets up the two main possibilities, right? One is to say atifa means only atifa yishmaelim, always. The other is to say no. In avelut, it's sign of mourning covers your mouth, and everywhere else it means to wear. But now you ask me a kasha. According to this, I have two shita that logically make sense. One is that I never have to do atifat yishmaelim, the Baalei Torah. The other is that theoretically, I always have to do atifat yishmaelim, which is what Nachum said, but as the Eiter said, that's not what people do. So now give me a svara. Where did the minhag emerge to do atifat yishmaelim only for the bracha?
Oh, maybe because they think that's more legit, but it's impractical. So you do it for the bracha, and then you just wear it.
Good. So one possibility is to say, in a chanami, really you should be wearing it all day that way, but that's not really how people go. Now, what's the other possibility? Right? The other possibility is to come up with a compromise position, which is the bracha. Really, the mitzvah of tzitzis is to wear it. To wear it. But the fact that the way we refer to wearing tzitzit is with the word atifa, lehitatef. So therefore what? At least when you put it on, it's not a din in tzitzis. What is it a din in? Bracha. Right? Meaning if it's a din in tzitzis, so then the halacha should either be I wear it all the time like that, or I wear it never like that. But if you say, but maybe there's a middle possibility, which is, you're right, the fundamental obligation of wearing tzitzis is to wear it. But because the language of the bracha is litatef,
for the sake of the bracha,
there's a chi of bracha to actualize the bracha pshuto kemashma'o. That exactly as it sounds, and since atifa in its purest sense is atifa yishmaelim, even though that's not the ikar mitzvah, when I say the bracha, I need to do that. And that seems to be the direction that the poskim take. Right? Which is in Ochanami. Fundamentally, the Itter is right in the sense that you're chayiv to put tzitzis on a beged, even if you're not wrapping it. But, for the bracha's sake, now, we can identify three shitot. So we have three shitot, but we can actually put names to them. Who holds that atifa by tzitzis only means wearing? The Itter. So therefore, even for the bracha, I don't need to do it. Who holds that atifa means that I always need to be nit'atef b'tzitzit in order to be chayiv in the bracha bichlal? So if you remember when we did the size thing, you remember we saw that there were certain shitot we don't really paskin like, but we're choshesh for, that said that as a talis katan is only derabanan, because the only thing you're chayiv in is that which covers your whole body, enough to wrap your whole body, that goes down your shoulder. Remember that? The Graz position, the position quoted in the Mordechai, right? All those positions, the reason that we're machmir and we only make a bracha on a talis gadol, not a talis katan, if you wear a talis gadol, right? All those shita we're machmir for, who say that our talis katan is really derabanan, but the real atifa is only a talis gadol. Those are shita who say some version of the mitzvah really is atifa, and therefore anything which doesn't count as atifa at all, like talis katan, right? No one says you have to cover your mouth all the time. That's true, right? But we saw some shita, again, not the majority position, but that gra and that shita in the Mordechai, that the only talis you're chayiv in d'oraisa is a full size. And when we say that you're chayiv in a talis katan, that's d'rabanan or something like that. Right? That's the other extreme. But our position, the majority position, which is lehalacha, when you wear a talis katan, you're chayiv probably mid'oraisa, assuming it's wool and all this, or you think cotton's chayiv and all the stuff we dealt with already. But for the bracha, maybe there's a din to reflect the literal meaning of the bracha when you put it on. So if you look at Shulchan Aruch in 5, here's Shulchan Aruch, right? Simin Chet. Yitatef b'tzitzit vivarech me'umad. When you put on the tzitzit, you have to make the bracha standing. Halacha-2. Seder atifato. Now, Yosef, now you know how you do it. How do you wrap? Kederech b'nei adam shemitkasin b'ksutam ve'oskim b'melachtam. Pa'amim b'kisui harosh, pa'amim b'gilui harosh, v'nachon shechaser rishon rosho b'talit. So what does he say? Lehalacha, how do you have to cover?
Like you were already.
The way people do it. Sometimes their head covered, sometimes without their head covered. Meaning, me'ikra din, how does he paskin? For the itter. But nachon, the right thing to do is that when you say the bracha, you should cover your head. To be choshesh for the other position. And then he says, talitot ktanim sha'anu noagim levash. When you put on a talit katan, aval pi she'ein behem ituf, yotzin ba'yidei chovat tzitzit. Even though you don't wrap yourself in them, you're yotzei. Meaning, fundamentally, do we think you need ituf to be yotzei the mitzvah? No. But lachatchila, by the bracha, you should do it. So you see, right, that he takes this middle position. V'tov laniach oto al rosho rechavo lekomato letatefbo. But Shulchan Aruch Paskins, I don't know if you do this. Do you do this? When you put on your talit katan, he says, what do you do before you put on your talit katan? You wrap it. Shulchan Aruch says you wrap it. Your talit katan. Does anyone do that?
The tzitzit that we wear always.
Correct. That before you put it on, you wrap it like you do your talit. Go, Shulchan Aruch.
It's a shirt tzitzit.
Ask your Rav, or ask your Rav if he says you should do that.
You wrap it and then you say.
That's what I'm asking him. Yosef, ask your rabbi if he thinks you should do that.
So you would wrap your talit katan that way and say litatef or mitzvah.
What?
When you wrap your talit katan, then would you say litatef?
I think starting usually say litatef. I don't know if they right mitzvah is the. I think I'm not sure actually. Ask him, Yosef. Ask him for me, okay? Whether he thinks you should wrap, because that's what Shulchan Aruch says. Right, you should wrap the same way you do your talit gadol. The same way. The amod kach mi'utav levacho kedei hiluch arba amot. He says you should stay wrapped with talit katan for the amount of 4 amot walking, so a few seconds. The achar kach yamshicha me'al rosho v'yobeshenu. Then let it, wear it. Then he says in Sifav, al talit katan yachol levarech letatef. There's the answer. I was pretty sure that I was right. Gavi. Shulchan Aruch says when you put on your talit katan, what bracha do you make? Litatef. So even though you're not really doing ituf, you're wearing it. The Ramah says
when you put it on normally or when you wrap it on yourself.
Always. He says afal pisheinu litatef, even if you didn't wrap. But the Ramah says yishom shemar al mitzvah tzitzit. V'chein noagin ve'en rayu l'shanot. Ve'en l'shanot rather. And the Ramah says we distinguish in the bracha. Why do you distinguish in the bracha? So there's two possibilities. Either the Ramah holds, remember this? Either we're choshesh that you're not yotzei, and therefore mitzvah tzitzit is just a generic bracha, thanking God for the mitzvah of tzitzit. Or, again, you say the mitzvah is to wear it. But the bracha needs to be reflected in the action that you're doing, and therefore, again, it's a din in bracha.
If the action you're doing is wearing and not wrap, it says even if you don't wrap, you should still make.
That's Shulchan Aruch. I'm not going to the Ramah. Shulchan Aruch says you say litatev even if you just put it on. Right. But the Ramah says if you don't do an ito, if you're just writing the talit katan, you say al mitzvat. So we said one possibility is because he thinks you're not even yotzei with your talit katan, which is right.
You don't wrap.
No, ever. Remember, he's choshesh for that sheet in the Mordechai. And he says, and therefore, the bracha mitzvah is more generic. Or he thinks the bracha needs to be reflected in the action that you do. Even though the halachic action is wearing, the physical action, if it's ituf, you say litatev, and if it's not, you say mitzvah. So you look at the Mishnah Brura. So he says, Yotzin bahem da'idna kol ksut shalanu derech kisuhem v'itov lo ramiza ba'oraita. He said, why are you yotzei with a regular talit katan? Because what does it say in the pasuk? Wear, not wrap. And that's why you're yotzei with a talit katan. Midoraisa. Again, that's majority position. Mi'utaf. So he says, Why does the Mishnah Brura think that you say the bracha al mitzvah? And sorry, why do you wrap? He says, "Today, let's say nami dara sobrim divin dafka ituf." He says, "I'm being yotzei. To be yotzei is in the positions who say I should wrap, so you should wrap." V'niradan noagin shelo levarich klal dalit katan rak poter job b'virkat al gadol ein tzarich klal itadefo. He says, but obviously you don't have to do this if you're only making a bracha on the talis. So I don't know. You have to check whether that's the that's Mogen Avraham, Mishnah Brura. I don't know what the Sephardi position is.
Mishnah Brura says you should go.
No, he says if you're only making the bracha on the talis and being motzi the talit katan, so you don't have to do ituf on it, right? On the talit katan. It's only if you're only wearing the talit katan. But check. Ask your rabbi. Let me know. Okay. So now look at the Piskei Teshuvot. Again, I just gave you a halachic summary. Tzurat Atifa Tallit. So how do you wrap it? So he says, Seder Atifato kederech bnei adam shemitkasim b'ksutam v'oskim lachtam pamim b'kisui harosh pamim b'gilei harosh. V'tov sheyechaseh rosho b'talit. Right, that's Shulchan Aruch. V'tov laniach al rosho rechavo lekomato u'litatifo v'yamod b'me'utav levacho kedei hiluch arba amot. V'achar kach yimshechenu me'al rosho v'yilbashenu. He said, if the Shulchan Aruch says you should wrap and stay wrapped in your talit katan, so for sure your talis, right? Your talit gadol, you should do that. So you should hold it for, how long does it take to walk 4 amot?
6 seconds.
I don't know, walk 6 feet. 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Yeah, it's like that. But he says, La halacha, do we mamish hold you need atifat yishmaelim? He says, no. Because who does he really paskin like? Maker din, who do we agree with? The itur. She'ein tzarich atifat yishmaelim, eladai batifat rosh regila. It just means wrap it, whatever. The gam zelo maker adin, ela mitzvah min amuvchar. He said, even wrapping your head is only mitzvah min amuvchar. And there are many people who don't bother to do it at all. Right? Now the Yitter also could say, Lechatchila, when you make the bracha, put it on, but that's not because it's part of the mitzvah. It's a dinner bracha, or it's nice, whatever. He says, Omnam. But he says, despite the fact that Shulchan Aruch Meikar Din doesn't need you to do Atifat Yishmaelim and cover your mouth, as Yosef tells us, Minhag Yisrael midorei dorot la'asot Atifat Yishmaelim. There's a minhag of Jews to do Atifat Yishmaelim. Though you'll see both. Right? In Shul, you'll see people covering their mouth, you'll see people not covering their mouth. No? I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I've seen people do both. Right? Some people will be very machbid, cover their mouth. Right? Some people just sort of like swing it around, throw it over their shoulder, hit what?
I'm not sure if everybody knows exactly how.
Right. Some people just sort of, they know, you sort of wrap it, throw it over your shoulder, hit some people, and move on. Right?
First thing, the majority of my face is covered.
So he says, Meikar Adin Shulchan Aruch says you don't have to do it. Just do some sort of wrapping. Mitzvah min amuvchar, it's nice. Atifat Yishmaelim, you don't have to. But some people, because it didn't the bracha, have the minhag exactly as Joseph describes, very carefully, go across the mouth and over the shoulder.
Is it like the front here was video? Like you short wrap it, but if you get it, he's saying, right? Certain poskim say, the Baliter says there's no reason to in the world. It makes no sense. Okay, there's two different. Sometimes, we have to distinguish. Sometimes the lechatchila b'diavad means lechatchila b'diavad really means ab initio post facto, meaning what should you do and what is good after the fact. Here, what we're talking about is something different, right? Here is the Itter says there's no reason to do it. It might be a nice thing, but clearly the mitzvah of tzitzis your yotzei l'mahadrin min mahadrin. The question of whether it's a nice thing in the bracha, right, or it's nice for a moment to be wrapped. It's muhudar, not muhudar, right? Right? But the Piskei Teshuvah notes that there are people who have the minhag of dafa doing atifat yishmaelim. Uvekitve ha'ari, right? The Arizal writes, "Shayunihirin lo shvile dishmaya nidgal lo chashivera enyan." And here it's a bit Kabbalistic, and the Arizal said that he was shown in heaven why this was so important. Okay,
Interesting.
Again. Me'alu me'ever of what I understand, but that's fine. V'huvu dvara b'Magen Avraham. And the Magen Avraham quotes this. V'achar v'shar poskim Mishnah Brura, and other poskim Mishnah Brura.
Uvismicha shel mamash nachona min hagmaod shebazeh yotzeh shita gaonim. So he said, reason one to do this is because the gaonim thought you really needed it. Right, so one reason to do it is to be machmir. Remember, I said there's two reasons you might want to do it. One is to be machmir, that you really need a tivot yishmelim, that's the gaonim. The other is to say it's a dinin bracha. So is it possibility? One is that you do it because of the gaonim. Shetzarach hativa gmura v'hainu kativot yishmelim. And he says, "V'afshein osin kein el is man muad kishur hiluch arba amot." Even though you're only doing it for a few seconds. Mikol makom. He said, for this Kabbalistic value, that's enough. Because it's not the din in the wearing. Right? We don't really paskin like the Gonim. But you get some sort of value, either because for a moment you're Yotzei on that sheet of the Gonim, and that's okay, Kabbalistically.
Why can't we just say people who don't wrap, they're not going to have the right intentions that they're wearing this, like that is
Say that again?
Like, why don't we just say the Gemara?
So maybe. So his next thing, he says, "The gam diapers." Let's say Daragon Mishum Deikrak Peda Atifa Ubedel Levisha. He said maybe the only kpeda. So either it's kavana, but he says maybe it's just that the kpeda is not to be yoked to go in for a moment. It's when you put it on. Why when you put it on? Because that's when you make the bracha. V'od kevan shebetchila levisha so ksut ke'en ativat yishmeilim yerchal av chovat tzitzit v'afli shiragonim v'nisher al ksut chivat tzitzit av shalav shu achar kach kargel. And then he comes to a very lumdish position, which is maybe even the Gaonim think that you just need the act of atifa to make you chayav, but then the chiyuv extends for the rest of the day. That I find very weird to say. But what is he suggesting? He said maybe atifa is a din in Maisa levisha, of putting it on, not of wearing, but of putting it on. Why? I'm not sure why you would say that. What?
You should make the bracha as you wrap.
Or right before, because over last yasa. No, it's over because over last yasa, and you always do it a moment before. He says, achin kfar kotva achronim lahazir amonim lasot tivot shmeilim zekog. And the achronim say you should really be machmir. Dahainu she'achil ke'elyon shel talit mekaser rosho mitzcho ad lamala mehinayim. And he says, how do you do it? So the top part covers here, above your eyes. And the part on the back is covering most of your back. You take the four corners of mashlich and you throw them over your shoulder, over your left shoulder. Your left shoulder? Dafka?
Yeah.
Okay?
Left.
Umatef bechelek hatachton shel talit lefanav oven v'chazeh erach chazeh l'mal arachotem. Right, so it covers here, it covers the chest, it covers up to your nose. Nimtza shekol chelek gufo ha'elyon zerotav tzadei panav upiv umitzcho mechusim betalit v'rak einayim megulot. Everything is covered, upper body, except for your eyes. Yeah, something like that. I don't know. V'kach yamod l'chol hafachot. Shir alicha arba amot, which he says is 3 seconds, and then some people say psukim, right? Psukim, maya. You say these psukim? Do you say these psukim? Mayakar, and he's chasider, so I don't know who says what and who doesn't. Okay. And then you should look at your tzitzit, and we talked about the mitzvah of looking at tzitzit last week. Put it on your eyes, etc. Ve'elu. Now then in the next paragraph he notes that it's not right though to cover your whole face, because that already is not normal, right? Ativat yishmeilim was leaving your eyes at least, right? Covering your face is never a normal way to go outside, right? To cover your whole face, and everybody says that's not the right thing to do. We'll see whether everyone agrees with that, but and that's what he writes. Okay. If you look at Rav Asher Weiss, though, in 8, the Chazon Ish says, I don't buy this. He quotes the Chazon Ish. It was just easier for me to give you Rav Asher Weiss than the Chazon Ish, because the Chazon Ish is not copyable, because I'd have to go do PDFs, and it's annoying. But the Chazon Ish wrote, he said, Tama. The Chazon Ish said, I don't understand this whole value. Why should you do this? If you think Atifa is Atifa, Katifa Ishmaelim, then when should you do Atifa? All day, every day. The imkain shar lasu calls man shatalet Allah v'lo rak b'shara ituf. The kadav dev ein anu chosher shin kol l'shita zo. And he said, and therefore, what does the Chazon Ish conclude? We're not choshesh at all. Kevan d'mavarachin le'tateif, yesh lasot ituf kedila amek et habracha. So where did I get this notion that it's from that's a din in the bracha? The Chazon Ish. But the Chazon Ish says you're right. You don't really have to do it. Why do we do it when you say the bracha? It's a din in bracha, amek et habracha, because you're saying the word ituf. And Rav Asher himself says, I don't buy the whole thing completely. He says, V'lo ivanti dvarav. What are you talking about? So what are you talking about? What do you mean it's a din in bracha? What's the argument of the Shulchan Aruch following the itur? That ituf here doesn't mean ituf. What does it mean? Wearing. But that means, im kain, if that's the case, ma inyan yesh l'chasot rosho shah muetet. If that's the case, then what does the word ituf mean? In l'hitatev. To wear. So why should you cover your head at all? V'od l'chora niret tamua la'ativ in ma'aseh mitzvah v'ofen kiyum ha'lenu zach ha'bracha. And he said, where do you get this notion that the act you do has to match the bracha? He said, you've got things backwards, 180 degrees. He said, do you set up the Maaseh mitzvah in light of the bracha, or do you set up the bracha in light of the mitzvah? Right, the Chazon Ish's shita, that because I say the word lehitateif, I need to wrap, makes no sense. Because the bracha reflects the mitzvah, not the other way around. And if you conclude that the mitzvah is to wear and not to wrap, then that's what it means in the bracha too. And he says, "Uminusach habracha efshar la'amod al gidrei hamitzvah." That's why when you see the language of the bracha, you can figure out the definition of mitzvah. For example, lahad likner. From the fact that we said lahad likner shel Chanukah, what do we prove halacha? That hadlaka oseh mitzvah ve'ein hanacha oseh mitzvah. That the lighting, not the placing, is the mitzvah. And therefore, lehitateif, if you think that lashon atifa is atifa d'ishmeilim, then you'd have to do it all the time. But if you think atifa means to wear, then it means to wear in the bracha too. That's what the words in the bracha means. Because otherwise, you wouldn't use the bracha lehitateif. What would you do? Lilbosh tzitzit. I mean, if you think the mitzvah is to wear tzitzit, and therefore you think the word lehitateif in the bracha means to wear, so then it means it to wear, and that's it, not to wrap. Because if you think the word lehitateif means to wrap, but the mitzvah of tzitzit is to wear, then what should the bracha have been? Lilvosh. And therefore, don't give me this. He said this Chazon Ish is backwards, right? It's completely backwards. And therefore, he says, "Mishum kol ze nireh yoter didar shel Chon Aruch da'aftes yirlei dechitzu yagov kari ituf she's baleter mekol tov lahater l'inin habrach letatev tishmeim v'dilatzes midechshash bracha levatol avalatzes mitzvah tzitzis l'kulei alma." He says, therefore, I'm willing to accept not what the Chazon Ish says. I'm willing to say that why do we wrap for the time of the bracha? To be choshesh for the gaonim, that's the only way to become the mitzvah. So you wear it for a few seconds to avoid bracha levatala. Not that it's a din in the bracha, but that it's a chshash that's actually how you have to wear tzitzis all day. So you do it for a few seconds so that the bracha is chal on an absolute mekim of the mitzvah. So what we have so far is the following. Okay, let's outline it again. Right, again, it's pretty simple. But you have the Gaonic Shita, which is that Atifa always, in all contexts, in Kol HaTorah Kula means Atifa Yishmeilim. And therefore, when are you Mekayim the mitzvah of tzitzis? Only during Atifa. Right? Atifa Yishmeilim. And therefore, the extreme position of that is that, a Tallit Katan, is it ever Chayiv Midaraisa? No. Right? Like the Mordechai, like the Gra, right? Though not as extreme, but on that side of the equation. Therefore, why do you wrap when you put on the bracha? When you say the bracha? Because that's really what you're doing all day, right? That's the Gonim would say you should wear it all day. All the way at the other extreme is the shita that what is atifa in the context of tzitzis? Wearing. That's the balaitur. Therefore, meikar adin, do you need to wrap yourself when you put on tzitzis when you make the bracha? No, because ituf means to wear, and therefore, what do you need to do when you make the bracha? wear it. Now, how would you come up with the middle positions? So, one possibility is to say that the word ituf means to wrap, but the mitzvah of tzitzis is to wear, but there's a halacha in brachot that you're supposed to make the act you do reflect the bracha. And therefore, the mitzvah is to wear, but since the word is lehitatef, you should wrap right after the bracha. Who says that? The Chazon Ish. But Rav Asher Weiss doesn't like it. Why doesn't he like it? Because if the word lehitatef means to wear when it comes to tzitzis, then it means that both for the act of wearing and for the bracha, and therefore does the word lehitatef b'tzitzit mean to wrap yourself, or does it mean to wear? To wear, and therefore should you have to wrap at all? No. So then why do we wrap according to Rav Asher Weiss?
Just for the chashash.
Good. He said the only thing that would make sense is not that I'm doing it at din and brach. I'm doing it to be choshesh, so that's really how I should be wearing it all day. And I don't want to make a bracha levatala, so for at least a few seconds after I make the bracha, I wear it. But according to the Rav Asher Weiss, really maker adin. Is there any reason to wrap yourself in the tzitzis? No, not at all. So if you see someone in shul not doing atifa de yishmaelim, should you kick and scream and yell? No, because maker adin, we don't paskin that way, right? We don't paskin that way. What? Right. So therefore, if someone does it and they do it over the right shoulder and not the left shoulder, or they do it and they don't cover their mouth, is it such a big deal? No, because the only limit lahad there, right? Now there is also this Kabbalistic thing, which is maybe there's some value in this. Okay, so if you see people doing it, dafka doing gativ yishmaelim, you know where it comes from. Either it's to be choshesh for the shita gonim, or it's Kabbalistic, or it's a din and bracha like the Chazon Ish. But really, maker adin, if they don't do it, they just put it over their shoulders, they don't even wrap at all. Are they yotzei? Yeah. Is it bracha levatala? No. Again, there are shita that we're being choshesh for.
But even if they say they did not take tzitzis, then they're not doing the wrapping.
No, because that's what Rav Asher points out, is that if you really think the word letatef in the context of tzitzis means to wear, then that is the act. Right? Then wearing it is the atifa. Because atifa here doesn't mean wrapping, it means wearing. We're choshesh for the gonim. Right, so Rav Asher says it's because we're choshesh the gonim. We don't want a bracha levatala. The Chazon Ish says it's a din in bracha. The bracha has to be reflected in the maisa mitzvah, even if it's not in the actual act you're doing, even if that's not the maisa machayev.
So wearing is just placing
Bidyuk, and that's really what the Itcher thinks. The notion of being machmer by the bracha, either to be choshesh for the gaonim, which is the way Rav Asher takes it, or it's like some Mahadran thing, Kabbalistically, the Arizal, or we're choshesh for the gaonim, that's the right? Sorry, or choshesh for the gaonim, that's how Rav Asher wants to take it, or it's a din and bracha, which is the Chazon Ish. The problem that Rav Asher has with the Chazon Ish is, no, the whole word of the Itter is that the word atifa by tzitzis doesn't really mean wrap, it means to wear, and therefore when you put it on and you don't wrap, you're exactly reflecting what the bracha says. Again, the Chazon Ish says no. There's an actual din that the act you do has to reflect the bracha. But Rav Asher says that's backwards. The bracha is formulated to reflect the mitzvah. And therefore, really, you shouldn't have to wrap at all. The only reason to wrap is not for the bracha, but because we're choshesh for the gaonim, that this is the only way to be mekayim the mitzvah of tzitzis, and once you're being choshesh for the gaonim, you're worried about bracha levatala, so you do it right after the bracha to prevent bracha levatala. But it's not because you're really required, it's just to be machmir for another shita. Right? But it's not that there's a din in the bracha, because the Chazon Ish is weird, right? What is the Chazon Ish saying? That even if we don't paskin like the gaonim, that we think the atifa really is to wear and not to wrap, because the word that we happen to use in the bracha is wrap, the act that we do immediately following the bracha is wrap. And that's where Rav Asher says, ma pitom. Ituf in tzitzis means wear, not wrap. The only reason to dafka wrap is to say we're being choshesh for the positions who say wrap really means wrap and not wear. But that means that me'ikra adin, if someone doesn't do it, is there any me'ikra adin? If someone doesn't do any wrapping whatsoever, the yotzei, the mahadrin, they are. So they might not be choshesh for the gonim. They might miss the Kabbalistic thing of the Arizal. But it's not a problem me'ikra hadin. There's not a problem me'ikra hadin. I'm not saying not to do it, right? Meaning, there's good reason to do it. Chazon Ish thinks it's in the bracha. Rav Asher thinks it's being choshesh for the gonim and preventing bracha levatala. And the Arizal, according to the Mishnah Berurah, thinks that Kabbalistically it's important. Great. That's three very good reasons to do it. But if someone doesn't do it, gam lo sofa olam. Right? I mean, there's good reason to do it, but it's not such a bit, right? I mean, there's three reasons to do it. But if you don't do it, also, it's low. Yeah.
Isn't there other Lashonis, like the Hilchos that shows that this is mamish?
That this is?
That this shows that it's mamish draft? Because there's other Lashonis. You have to help to cover.
Good. So there's a secondary question, right, which is not about the bracha here, which is, are there parts of tefillah where you should be wrapped in your talis, not because it's your talis, right? Not because it's a talis, but because you're supposed to be wrapped and you happen to be wearing your talis. Correct. It could be a hat, it could be a jacket, it could be whatever. So that is a din in tefillah, right? And there the machlokes is, right, mina katzeh, mela katzeh, right? You have poskim who say that it's a different machayev, right? Completely.
It's different lotion. So over here, it should show that it's to wrap because it's a different lotion altogether to wrap to cover up.
Right, but the argument of the itur, which Shulchan Aruch paskins like, is that here the word ituf really just means to wear. By other parts of tefillah, the atifa that we have may really be atifa. Right, be a wrapping, right, and that's where you get the question of what does it mean? Atifas harosh, right? Should you cover your head, right? Should you cover your body, right? And literally, you have every minhag under this planet there. You have poskim who say it's really just about a hat, right, or a kippah, which is big enough to cover a robe over your head, and that's all you need. You don't need to cover your head at all. Some poskim will say no. For kriya shman shemoneh-esrei, for intent purposes and kavod and whatever, you're supposed to cover your head with a talis, and that's why you'll see people, right, cover their head. You have Reb Chaim's minhag was apparently to cover his head for Kriya Shema, but take it off for shemoneh-esrei, right? Daf could take it off for shemoneh-esrei because it was only a din in Kriya Shema, right? If you want, we can spend the day on this minhag, but Dafka doing that, you'll see in the Breuer's community, right? If you go to Breuer's, the minhag is that only the Rav or someone who has the title Chaver wraps his head with a talis, I think, but everyone else is mit'ateh dafka with a hat, right? Is dafka with a hat. So only the Rav, and I think it's Chaver. I know it's the Rav. I think it's also Chaverim, right? Are allowed to wrap with a talis, but if someone else tries to wrap with a talis and not a hat, they'll yell at you, right? So like you have mamish the minhagim go min hakatzeh lakatzeh, right? And then there's this question: is there a chiv of double wrapping? Well, what is double wrap? And then there are some people who say, well, you should wrap, but you shouldn't put it over your tefillin because your tefillin are supposed to be nireh, right? The tefillin shall yad is a din in being muchuseh, right, being covered, but the tefillin shel rosh should dafka not be. So people who cover their tefillin are being mavatil a kiyum in tefillin because the Chazal understand that by tefillin shel rosh there's a din of ra'u kol amei aretz v'yaru mimeka, that they will be seen, and therefore if you cover your talis, you're being mavatil. Right? So mamish, you have every shita, and it's like. And then the question is, I think part of Reb Chaim's cheshbon was that if the knot on your tefillin is part of the tefillin shel rosh, so wrapping with a talis is being mavatil even because of the ritzuos. Right, so that might be part of the problem, right? So there's so many complicated factors. I spent like a few hours just reading through. Ray Simon has in his Sefer on minhag, he has a chapter on this, and he goes through every variant of every minhag, and it's a combination of the shitot in ituf plus the dinim in tefillin plus the dinim in tefillah. I may have messed up some of them, I may have missed some of them, but it's a. By the way, this is only men, right? But right, you've seen, I don't know if people in your family do this, but I have met like real hardcore Sephardim, Moroccans, whatever, where single women, right, when they come to davening, also are mitatef, right? They also wrap, right? They cover their head because if it's a din in tefillah, it's not just about men, right? And therefore, I remember when I spent one Shabbos in Stern. I was speaking there when I was when Oren I think just got married. I remember there was a girl there who was Moroccan, and she came to davening, and she was single, but she covered her. She brought a scarf and did full, Atifas Harosh. Because it's a din in tefillah. If it's a din in tefillah, it's not just for men.
But she didn't say a bracha, did she? Or she didn't have seed on this?
No. But I'm saying, that's my point. Is that there's one question which is Atifa of tzitzis, the other is Atifa of tefillah, and for men who are wearing a talis, they use their talis. But there's a separate halacha of Atifa and tefillah, so if you're not wearing a talis, right? You're a single man, you're a woman, right? And you're being makbid, so they cover their head with the atifa gam. So this gets very complicated.
It's probably my grandmother and great-grandmother would have done it.
The 21-year-old girl in Stern was not your great-grandmother, but I'm sure, right? But yes, your grandmother and mother.
My family would have been one of them that would have done it.
Right. But again, so this halacha, so you're absolutely right. Meaning there are parts of tefillah where there's a din of atifas harosh, right, which we use our talis if we're wearing a talis, right? But, and this relates to the other question, which I really don't want to get into, because it's one of these minhagim, black holes, which is, why is minhag Ashkenaz to not wear a talis until you get married? Where the sources that come up on that is and why is it that it's only Ashkenazim who are not yekas or briskers? So briskers will also do this because they don't, and then it's because of it's amazing because suddenly the Ashkenazi Rishonim and Achronim start coming up with Gzeras Hakasuv and Gzeras Shaveh because tzitzis appears in Parshas Ki Teitze next to the pasuk of Ki Yikach Ish Isha, and therefore we make up a Gzeras Shaveh or a Hekesh. I'm you have no idea. These minhagim, right, Simon? Literally, he has a book 500 pages long on minhag. Half of it is on the nature of minhag, and then he has 5 case studies, and one of them is just all the minhagim around wrapping your talis during davening, single, married, kriya shema, shemoneh-esrei, both, neither, one, this, that, right? Din, covering the ritzua not with a hat, with a this.
What makes that comment on tzitzis maybe speak on his comments? That later wraps it for shemoneh-esrei, but he made
No, you're done. Yeah.
What if?
So now, and I just gave you in the next paragraph that Rav Asher Weiss gives you a nice summary if you want, and he says, I'll run through it. I won't read it inside, but he says the minhag is to do ituf. Right, the minhag, nevertheless, however you want to explain it, is to do ituf by the bracha. So he says the minhag Ashkenazim is to mamish cover like Tosfos, like the Gonim, ara safam, right, covering over the mouth. The Shulchan Aruch Harav says it should cover it should go up to the lugumo shebaleche mitachat lepeh, over here, right in the jaw. The Aruch HaShulchan quotes Malbim like that, and mamish cover your face. But many of the poskim don't like this because, as we saw, they don't want you to cover your eyes, right? That was the Piskei Tshuva. Why would you cover your eyes? Nobody walks around with your eyes, right? You're like a summa ka'arubav and itkalim, right? If the Bedouins are walking around covering their eyes, right? It's a yom v'nara, right? They'll just fall into pits in the desert. No one does that. And therefore, Rav Asher says, right, you definitely shouldn't do that, right? You should cover, and he said if you want to cover your whole face, what you should do is make a window, right? Meaning, you want to cover your whole face, so put the talis over so it comes down to here, so it's covered, but there's a window, so it could be, right, you know what I'm talking about, right? Put it over here, bring it up to here, so your face looks like it's covered, but you can see out, right? However you want to do it, right? Come up with some sort of, that's what he says. He write me'in chalon, and he says that's what many of these people living in the deserts in fact do. But he says he really is very, very makbid not to cover your whole face. And what's his logic? And the logic is, it's not derech atifa, And he says, dafka the other way around. He says, really, Meikar Adin, we don't paskin, you need to cover your face. You just need to wear it. What's the one thing that's dafka not derech malbush? Covering your face. Right? Meaning he says, what's the really Meikar Adin, we paskin, you don't need to wrap at all. You just need to wear it. So now, you're going to cover your face, which is not derech malbush. That's crazy. Because that's the one thing that's not levisha. So he says, when you want to be machmir to do atifa, matov u'manayim, but you're going to be machmir to do atifa in a way that no normal person would wear, so now you're going to be involved in the actual mitzvah of tzitzis, which is to wear it like a normal person, right? This is already, right? So that you shouldn't do. Whatever really should be machmir that you should be able to see. However, so where does this notion come from that some people really do cover their eyes? So, right, I mean, good kasha. So where does it come from? So one answer might be people don't know halacha. That's always possible. The other is that there is a Zohar that says you should cover your eyes so that you don't see the Shekhinah. Okay, I don't know what to do with that. It's quoted by many of the Achronim. It's quoted by the Mishnah Berurah in the name of the Pri Megadim that some people during tefillah do that. They cover their eyes. He says, look, Rav Asher says, this has nothing to do with mitzvahs tzitzis. So then he backtracks and he says, look, the Zohar says it, maybe it is that you're still yotzei, right? You're still yotzei, even though it's not a normal way to wear it. Because he says, I mean, look, maybe it is wearing, it's not a normal way of wearing, but have you never done that, right? You've never wanted to cover your eyes, like people stick their heads in their sweatshirt. You're still wearing it. People do it. He says, okay, it's not what the Atifa de Ishmaelim do, so lechatchila you shouldn't do it. But if you do it, when you do it during davening because of the Zohar, okay, I don't think you should do it during the bracha. But if you cover your eyes with your talis during a bracha, makbid like the Zohar, okay, so you do, Okay, and then he gets into the last question that I mentioned before, is that Pri Megadim, he says from the Pri Megadim it sounds like you're covering the tefillin also, right? Because you're covering your whole face, including the eyes. And then he says, the Magen Avram indeed quotes from the Arizal that you should cover your tefillin, but not entirely. That's his compromise. But the Moruktzia says that no. The Rav Yaakov Emden says you shouldn't cover the tefillin at all because of the din of what I said, that there's a din in your tefillin being seen. So like I said, right, a lot of these minhagim, right, not just of right, so again, we have to divide it. There's one question which is in terms of tzitzis. And again, just to summarize, Meikar Adin, we paskin like the Bal Itur, that Atifa just means wearing. The Gaonim felt that you're not Yotzei Tzitzis unless you wrap. The Minag is to paskin like the Bal Itur, but to when you put on the Tzitzis to wrap, Mamish Atifa Ishmaelim. Either because of what the Chazon Ish says, that it's a din in the bracha, or as Rav Asher says, no, to be machmir like the Gaonim, and to say that we don't want a bracha levatala, or like the Arizal, that there's some Kabbalistic value. There's a second question on top of that, which is, okay, is there din in tefillah? And the answer there is a mili minhagim, right? There, the Zohar does say you should cover your whole face. The Pri Megadim quotes it. Rav Asher doesn't love it, but he's willing to accept it, right? He doesn't love it because he says, Mistama, that's not normal wearing, but okay, maybe there's Kabbalistic reasons, it's fine. And then you have all these sub-machlokot about what about covering your tefillin. So the Zohar sounds like you cover it entirely. Magen Avram says cover it a little bit, but not all, based on the Arizal. The Moruktzia says don't cover it at all because that's a bittul in the din of tefillin shel rosh, that you're supposed to have them uncovered. So like I said, right, once you get past the question of atifa in terms of the mitzvah of tzitzis, then you have to do all of the sub-questions, which of tefillah, right? And then, again, is it dafka talis? Is it covering your face? Not covering your face? What about tefillin? What about men? What about women? Does a hat count as atifa? Does a big kippah count as atifa? What are we talking about atifa? Right? I remember once that Rav Lichtenstein was very makbid atifa with a hat. So once he forgot his hat, and he ran to get his talis, so someone tried to give him his cowboy hat. There was one guy in Alon Shvud who is shticky about it and always wears a cowboy hat. He offered it to Rav Lichtenstein, which did not go over well. Right? So Rav Lichtenstein went instead got his talis, even though it was mincha, right? But like I said, those are really sub-machlokot. If you want, we can take a day and just sort of run through it. I've thrown out the basic issues there, right? I mean, like I've run through it very, very quickly, but those are the basic issues that come up there. Okay, like I said, this is a relatively straightforward sugya. I don't think this was like super complicated, but you have to do it if we're doing tzitzis, and then we got to figure out tomorrow. It's relatively straightforward. It really was.